Show.
Welcome to Breaking Ice and Building Bridges. This is your host, Byron Jackson. And I have had a lot of coffee today, so I'm doing well. And I actually have a guest here, Brian, which is close to Byron. Brian, what is your last name?
Lindsay.
Brian Lindsay,
yep.
Who comes to us all the way from...
Edmond.
Okay, it was a good 15 or 20 minute drive.
About 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Do you live close to the highway?
Yeah, I live right off of Hefner. So, I can literally get on the parkway and jam on down here too easily.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I tell you, you guys cannot see Brian right now. But if you could, this is one of those moments I wish I had video, because Brian has some beautiful tattoos. And I just, when people have tattoos, Brian, I just want you to grab their skin and start looking closely at it. But I got arrested for that once, so I quit doing that.
Yeah. People some people get upset. I tell you, I worked retail with Verizon for about 4 years, and it was always the older ladies that would come into the store and be like, "Oh my God," and they would start grabbing my arm like, "Our work is so beautiful," and stuff. So yeah, I'm no stranger to that feeling.
Well, if my wife dies and I have to remarry, I hope don't die, wife. But if she died and I have to go dating again, I'm going to get tattoos.
There you go.
It's a chick magnet.
I tell you, it's kind of going full circle. It's almost like the whole drinking thing. People are abstaining from tattoos, and it's like you're more of an abnormality if you don't have any tattoos. It's crazy. So
it is. I'm abnormal. Yeah. I fit in once again.
Yeah, you're becoming the cool crowd.
I am part of the cool. I am so glad you're here, because I want to ask you, just talking to you a little before.
Mm-hmm.
So you were in the Army?
Yes, sir.
In the Army. So when did you go into the Army?
Went in 96.
96. How old were you?
I was 19 at the time.
19. So then you went through, where'd you go to boot camp at?
At the time, the infantry still only had one home, and that was Fort Benning in Georgia. Yep.
And so you did infantry. Were you ever in Fort Sill?
No, I was not. It's kind of crazy because I was born in Norman, but I did not grow up in Oklahoma at all. I actually grew up in Connecticut. But when I joined the Army, I was stationed in Germany the whole 8 years I was in. And when I first got there, all the old timers are like, places you never want to go. Make sure whatever you do not go there. Fort Sill always popped up into the conversation, no matter what, which was fine. I mean, Fort Sill is like the home of field artillery, so I never really had a reason that I probably would have been stationed there anyway. So
I was actually born in Lawton.
Oh, really?
So there's huge fights between soldiers and homies all the time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You'd have to. They were advised to stay away from civilian bars because, of course, my dad, he was in the military, and so he met my mom, and so it worked for him.
Yeah.
It did. So, okay, biggest surprise getting to boot camp.
Biggest surprise. Honestly, this could sound bad saying it, but how difficult it was for some people. I didn't find it difficult. You know what I mean? It was and when I mean difficult, I mean mentally. I guess I'm more of the type of person that really likes structure anyway. So it's okay, you're going to be told exactly what you're going to do every minute of the day you're awake. You know what I mean? Cool, let's do it. You know what I mean? You just do what you're told, move along. You don't get yelled at.
And others had trouble with that.
Exactly.
And so the surprise was people that were just whining in their bed because they were being told what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's I found it funny, it was almost like the old movie Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
I almost felt like Private Joker, when the drill sergeants would yell at me or yell at people, I was snickering and just making sure I didn't do it out loud so they would come to me next. But I had a close family friend who was actually one of my, who worked at a recruiting station. He kind of gave me some of the, hey, this is going to be how they're going to be, but it's not really like that. So I had a little bit of insight prior going too.
Now, your biggest surprise once boot camp was over?
Biggest surprise, how quickly I'd end up in a third world country.
Really?
Yeah. I at that time was when we had just liberated Bosnia after the bombings in 95 and stuff. So literally 90% of my platoon in boot camp, we ended up getting on a plane, going to Germany. And basically 2 to 3 weeks later, we were on buses headed to Bosnia.
Holy
so it was like
moly.
literally that fast, which worked out because Germany was my number one choice. They come through like the last week and
With
go
a side trip to Bosnia.
Yeah, exactly. I know. They're like, you pick 3 places you would love to serve in the military. And I was like, Germany, Hawaii, Korea. And I got Germany. So, but little did I know, like you said, with a side quest to Bosnia for 6 months.
And so your specialty was you learned to be a sniper.
Yeah, I ended up going through sniper training. I think it was year 5 and 6. Was that I was in? Yeah. So.
When you've been out. And then so when you left the military, you started doing music.
I had actually started doing music a little bit while I was still in the Army.
What were you doing?
Learning to DJ at the time.
Were you?
Yep. So I got into DJing. So I started doing the typical kind of, barracks parties. And then I learned German pretty quickly while I was over there as well. So I kind of got in with a crowd that most of the Americans never got into. Like I kind of took pride in myself. Like there was German clubs where they're like, oh, they never let Americans in. I was like, well, I go every weekend. So, it's no big deal. So I started becoming friends with some of the DJs. And back then it was you had to learn the ropes, pay your dues. Like I started DJing. I didn't play it in a club till probably year 3. Whereas nowadays the kids buy their equipment and 6 months later they're playing in clubs and complaining they're not headlining and stuff. It's like, you got to pay your dues.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's little tiny secrets that you learn from doing it over and over. And like I always thought, this is great. I will DJ and I can play the music that I like, where I never hardly ever play music I like because I know that my audience likes something different, so I have to play what they like. And so it's just
See, it's kind of funny for me because like I had a lot of friends that made that same exact statement. And I went into it, like you said, too, I was only going to play the music I liked. There is a medium where you can meet in the middle, where that's something I've always said for so many years. I will not ever play a song I don't like. But I will find enough music that my crowd likes too. And I have a good way of being able to read a crowd. Like I call them my tester tracks at the very beginning to see where they're at with what. And I just focus on that. And I have a whole library that I know I can feed them all the good sounds that they're going to like. So
now, how busy do you stay?
It's kind of funny because when I left Germany in 2010, I had a hard decision I had to make whether or not I wanted to stay there and go full time. Because I was like probably a B-level headliner. I played in multiple countries, some of the biggest well-known clubs at the time I had played in. But my day job on the military base was going away because they were closing most of the Army bases in Germany. So I lost my job there, but they said, you have a job at a Navy base in Virginia Beach. Give us your answer in 72 hours. So I had to decide, all right, do I give up actually at the time, 15 and a half years of military and also civilian time towards retirement, full benefits, a paid trip back to the States, all my stuff being moved, or give it up and try. It was literally, I stayed awake almost 72 hours trying to make this decision. And I made the smart decision and ended up coming back. At that time, like I said, I was playing probably every weekend, sometimes 2-3 gigs a weekend. But it was like feast or famine. I'd have like 8,000 euros in 1 month. The next month, it was only 1,000 euros because it was my residencies, and that was it. So it was like, I was too scared to make that jump at the time. So I went with the sure thing, and I moved back to the States. Virginia Beach ended up being a desert with the type of music I'm into, which is electronic house and techno. But we ended up making a scene fairly quickly, me and a couple of the guys there, and got that going. And they were probably about 5 years behind the music scene where I was in Germany. And then I ended up meeting my now ex-wife in Germany, but we reconnected online and she was living in Oklahoma. And we started a long distance relationship. And then I ended up moving out here and quitting my job with the military altogether in 2013 to find out Oklahoma was, at that point, probably another 5 years behind where Virginia was when I first got there. And Oklahoma has been the most difficult place I've been as far as to make a career out of music.
Two thoughts. One is Limp Bizkit had a song called I Did It for the Nookie. And see, you're a perfect example of that. I'm in Oklahoma.
Yep.
The other thing, it'd be kind of neat to, we should talk to Santiago, because Santiago DJs.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I'm starting to know enough DJs that we could kind of create our own little world. So we could start putting on events and stuff. And
well, that's what, so like with my girlfriend, Samantha, who also has her podcast on here, Goddess Awakening, that's kind of what she was doing and I was doing. So we've now collectively come together, and we originally had set in together to do it under Goddess Awakening, which is her brand and her festival and everything, which is October 10th this year, which going along swimmingly. We can't wait for that to happen. But we decided we talked to a lot of different people, and we formed an umbrella LLC, Awakened Entertainment now. And Goddess Awakening is just one of the facets under Awakened. And and one of the things that we plan on doing is either she toyed around with artist management, but we're more talking potentially artist coaching. Because as I've been like working artist relations for the festival, a lot of the artists, I've been just giving them little nuggets of feedback, because like 24, 25 years in this industry, a lot of them are under 2 or 3. So it's like, oh, that's something I never thought of. Or, oh, that's so much great. I'd love to sit down and get some more info, more ideas. So we said, why not make part of a business out of that? What I mean?
It's a great idea. We should talk more about that one day. Mm-hmm. Just because I think there's space. Now, are you coming to our In the Groove dance? We have a retro dance that is a week from Thursday.
I can't remember. I want to say I saw an email.
Oh, my goodness. You got to come, because if you bring something, we could plug you in for, it's retro music, but we could plug you in for a few minutes, give you a little plug there, and I think we could do that. Is that legal, Santiago? Sure. So that'd be nice. And so you guys should come. It's actually a very fun day. Then you could see some of the most unorthodox DJing for me, because I just basically push computer buttons.
Yeah.
And so my whole thing is like audience participation. I don't even care if I actually need somebody to do the music, and because I just like being out with the.
So you'd like to be more like the MC?
Yeah, I enjoy the MC and stuff.
And see, that's kind of the one thing I've always like shied away from. Like a lot of times I'll play some of these bigger events and stuff, and like the sound guy will come up and be like, all right, I got your microphone all set up for you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, sweet. And I'll never touch it the entire time I play. I don't know. I've never, and I ran an after hours here for a little over a year as well in Oklahoma City. And some of the DJs we have, we're just like, oh boy, so-and-so's playing, hide the microphone. And we literally would, because they would just nonstop, just get on the microphone, scream, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's too much.
What I have learned, because I mean, my background is social work. Mm-hmm. And so I pay a lot of attention to where the audience is.
Yeah.
And so I actually think that music and dancing is a spiritual connection.
Oh, 100% is.
And so once a group hits that level, I just kind of like a primer starter. Mm-hmm. And because people are like, oh, I don't. And so once I could kind of get them on the floor where they're in it, then they take over.
Yeah.
And so I'm much quieter as the evening goes on because they're doing it. I don't have to. And then every so often I'll pop on and say something. But at the very beginning, I kind of come on and because I have to coax people out of their inferiority about.
It's for me, it's like, it's kind of crazy because this is like when we were talking about my ideas for the podcasts of my own, learning the ways in Europe and then moving over here afterwards. It is very, very different how DJs interact with crowds, how DJs perform their art, where they perform their art. Like, it's very, very different, So it's like for me at the time learning, because I started DJing in 2000. And then by the time I moved back, I'd been doing it for 10 years. In Europe at the time, most DJs in nightclubs didn't use a microphone. And like, we always had a kind of a saying, we let the music do the talking. And then I moved back here and it's like, it's a different subgenre that was more the focus of electronic music. And that relies heavily on the MCs and taking the mic and hyping the crowd up and stuff like that. I'm like, I almost had culture shock, like learning, like, wow, this is a whole different world for me. So, but
well, I'll just throw you into shock completely. You go, what the hell is he doing? It's a chicken dance out there. And so there I am in the middle, have my little chicken outfit, but I'm having a good time.
And that's all that matters.
It does.
Yep.
Man, very creative stuff. So your Samantha is your wife, girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And then you guys have Goddess Awakening.
Yep, that's her brand. Like I said, she started. And its focus is predominantly right now on the festival, which is in October this year.
Now, are you able to do any other work? Or are you just waiting for DJ stuff to open up?
I actually still work full-time for Verizon.
Do you?
Yeah, I am the retail operations support analyst for all of Oklahoma City.
Verizon phone right here.
Hey, there you go. We're the best.
I've been pretty happy with you. I was using this over in Greece last month.
Yeah, we used ours when we went over to Germany in March, and for 10 days, 11 days, I can't remember exactly how, but it worked just fine over there too. I started in sales. I hated when people come and say, who's the best? What do you think I'm going to say? US Cellular, T-Mobile? Of course I'm going to say Verizon is, but what I always told everybody is if most emergency services, police, EMT, fire use our service.
No, what's so interesting about you? If people had a picture of you, you would think that you were probably the most unstructured guy, like you just free, tattoos, beard. But actually, you really like structure. I mean, the service and then working with Verizon. And I mean, you just like your ducks in a row and knowing where you're going to go. And
yeah,
quite a good quality.
Thank you.
It is. It's the older I get, the more I appreciate structure. Just because I forget
I think too, like there was a time period like where there's ebbs and flows. Like I was way too structured, and if things weren't structured enough, it frustrated me, and I would shut down and from it and stuff. So going back to that's hypervigilance, which is a part of the PTSD and stuff as well. So the longer I've been in therapy and everything, like learning some of these tendencies as to why it is that way, it makes a lot more sense, and has also helped me to relax, so to say, in certain situations.
Where do you think you are on like your spiritual journey?
I'm still awakening.
Awakening?
Yeah.
So you're God awakening. Is it God? Well, I guess we could say goddess.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like my Samantha is very much into the spiritual realm and stuff. I'm like what she likes to reference, like Harry Potter, a muggle. I was not into any of that whatsoever. I had no, spirit powers or anything. I was not a witch, but or a warlock. But hanging out with her and some of her friends and stuff like that has really helped me balance out a lot, and I think I would say she probably says the same thing too. Like, we balance each other very, very well. So kind of our yin to yang.
It's so interesting for me because like I grew up thinking that if I had material things and certain prestige in society, I would have complete happiness. And as I've realized that is total bullshit, and that my happiness really comes from different places. So like you, I've had to awaken, okay, where is my happiness going to come from? And so it's quite a journey because as men, we're taught, go get this and you're happy. But we go get it and you're full of anxiety. And I mean,
at what cost do you expend in order to get it? And for me, that's also like kind of that yin and yang. Like we just finished going through an online event for the past week, Samantha and I, and it's about, like those types of things and awakening and all that, battling some of your issues. But for me, I don't like this whole or way of living. Like, you can either be big into things or you could be awakened.
The dualism.
Like, exactly. Like, for me, it's an and. Like we talked about earlier, me and Santiago were talking about music. Like, I've dealt with people throughout my career who are like, well, you should always just be doing it for the love of the music. No, I love the music just as much as you, maybe even more. But why shouldn't I get paid for it as well? There's no reason. Like, I'm awakening. I understand, material things don't make you happy, but I like my BMW sports car I drive. Like, you can have both sides as long as you understand how to get it. To me, is more important than why you have it.
In Buddhism, what does it say? Is my attachment to it. Whether I have nothing or everything, what is my attachment to that? Because that's where my suffering comes from. But I like what you say, to really not have the dualism of it has to be one or the other.
It can be one and two.
See, that is my teaching that I will take from you. Thank you very much for coming in, and good luck. You went through the training like 7 years ago, so hopefully,
I know.
Hopefully, you will get a podcast one day.
Yes, definitely. I'm absolutely going through with it.
I think it would be great. I think it would be a great podcast, whatever you do. Thank you very much, Brian.
No problem. Thank you, Byron.
And so I've been with Brian. This is Byron, and we're going to go out and not do either or, but both. So we're out. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Connecting a community through conversation.
Breaking Ice, Building Bridges is the Possibilities Community Podcast platform. Thanks for tuning in.